my grandfather tells in 1938, Roxbury Creamery burnt down. And they went to New Kingston, which is way down by Margarettsville, and then hooked back up. And he said it was severe winter that year. And they didn't plow the roads much at all because it just didn't have the equipment like today. And he said he had a guy he hired to ride along with him because they get stuck in the snow and have to shovel themselves out. They had tire chains on most of the winter. If they could get across New Miller's Flat down on Route 30 without getting stuck in there, they had an easy day. And the truck didn't have any heater. That wasn't even an option. My grandfather took stovepipe and put it around the exhaust manifold and the tailpipe and get some heat in the cab. You carried a little bag of salt for your windshield. When it fogged up, you take that little bag of salt and rub it on there. It would melt the frost off. And keep on going. Yeah, he tells about let's see, East Conesville Road and Bearkill Road, where it comes together. The farmers over by what's now Lake Seven Birches, they would bring their cans to that intersection, bury them in the snowbank so that the milk didn't freeze before my grandfather would get there to pick them up. Yeah. Another thing, my grandfather was one of the 4 founding members of Coonsville Fire Department. George Cook had the store up here at Tubular Hills, and he was one of the chartered. My grandfather, then Hitchcocks, where Ernie lives, and then Avery Hemmon, where Mom and Dad did. So the 4 of them put the fire department together in 1936, 37. Their first truck was 37, which we have in our collection. I should have looked for the charter. I got the one that was, sealed and everything. And
I've seen copies of the petition and all of that kind of
yeah.
stuff associated with the creation of the
Yeah,
fire
I
department.
found it blowing around the front lawn one day.
Cool.
It must have been that little building that fell down on my yard. I'm walking out and I see this and I'm thinking, what's this? Pick it up, oh.
Something important.
Yeah, see, my grandmother was town clerk for 22 years, I think. And at that time, the town clerk's office was in your living room or wherever. And in the winter, the town board meetings were held in the house there that I got in the front room because they had heat. I had no interest in being involved in ball games after school or anything. I've only went to 1 or 2 ball games with my buddy. It was not I'd rather be home and take care of that. Well, the neighbors were all pretty close. A few, of course, you're always going to be few. But they had a lot of square dances, church suppers, and firemen suppers. So there was something going on quite often. In the summers down to West Conesville, Masonic Hall, they'd hold dances there every Saturday night. And in the winter, one winter they would do Potter Towel Grange, which is church now. And the following winter they would do Prattsville Firehouse. And that mixed up the genetics for the nanner kill you had. That actually for a few years wasn't a grocery store, it was a feed store. And you know, that's farm supply type place. And across from the old town garage, there was a store in there. I can vaguely remember that. And there was one by the bridge down to West Clinton. And on this end, coming out that little house hanging off the side, there was a woman, Hattie Case, had that. And she had all kinds of farm supply, hardware type stuff, and she lived amongst it. You know, she was a single woman. I think her husband had passed or something. And she made do with milk strainer, shovels and hoes, and rope, whatever a farmer might be, kerosene, gasoline. I can remember there was a gas pump there. Across the way there from that where the house burnt, they put the double wide in.
Yeah.
That was a gas station. Flores' owned that. And they had a little bit of groceries in one room. They didn't have much inventory, so you could go and get a few things. And I was like 6th grade, and the Catholic kids would go to, now I can't think of what it was.
Catechism, right?
Yeah, catechism. And I always thought it was quite amusing. They go to the bar room to get religion, you know.
I've heard lots of stories about that.
Yeah, you could actually buy a few things in Conesville if you needed. It had 1 to 2 sawmills always going. And, well, Mom and Dad's farm, they sold grain up in the haymow at the 3rd level of the building there. You could back right in from the road. It was always bag feed. And that had come in from out grain country. It was already formulated in bags. And they'd bring it from Grand Gorge Railroad Station there and unload it. There's one time a guy's making a delivery and he backs in there and the bridge give out. So they're on the 3rd floor there, right down in. You know, I don't know how they ever got that out. I had a backhoe in the same barn floor with all 4 wheels off the ground once. It fell through. I sure could. I could have gone right on to the bottom, but it stopped me. Yeah. I've done, how can I say, the bare minimum, because I did not specialize in homework. That was out of the picture. Well, we would get done in the barn at 8 o'clock, 8:15, and then go to the house and eat, and then go to bed. So you didn't really have time for such nonsense. And boom, 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 go through the stuff. But I graduated and everything. It was just I don't know. I was in the new wing.
In the new wing, okay.
Because that new wing was built in 59.
Okay.
And I started school in 59. So
Okay.
I guess it was brand new and I didn't never take thought of it. Because the old school was 29, I believe.
Yeah, when the consolidation happened.
Yeah.
You took the school bus to school?
Yeah. In the winter, you froze yourself. They didn't have much heat, just body heat is all you had. It had a heater, but you could hold your hand on it and wonder if it was warm or not. I remember one of the kids there, he used to like to take the bar on the seat ahead of you with bare, now they pad them for safety, and he'd spit on it and figure out how cold it was. The first driver we had him for years, Old Wright, which owned where Bill Tompkins farmed it. And he was a short guy, and Ma always said he wore high water breeches because his pants cuff was almost up at his knees. he was Then we had this guy, Harry Fancher, he subbed a lot because Oak was supervisor. And if he forgot to let a kid off, he'd back the bus up. I don't know, it would have been quicker just to get out and walk the kid to their house, you know, because he couldn't back up a bus to go to hell, he's all over.
Did they close school when it snowed?
Very seldom. You put tire chains on in the morning and keep on going. Yeah, you'd ride in on tire chains, and I remember I was in 5th grade. We had about a foot and a half of snow in the morning when we went to school, and they wanted the state aid. They had to stay open till noon or whatever. Well, they had a little small tractor that they used to plow the driveway. And if we get in a big storm, they would vote up by the main building, you know, the back upper building, because it was just enough room to get the buses in. But we had to wait it out for Town of Gilboa to come up with their payloader to push it out because the snow got the best of us. And we'd come home, and there was people that lived next there, the tenant house that's been burnt down now, but my grandparents, they were renting it to this family, and the kids were small, a boy and a girl. And Bill Breitenberg, he had to carry them down to the snow because I remember it was up to my chest at that time, not that I was a tall guy, but it must have been this much snow. And yeah, they really frowned upon school snow days. That's quite a little bit different now, you know. My father drove a bus for 9 years, and mainly up in Huntersville. And one morning, Dad pulls in. He says, "I'm surprised you're having school today." He says, "It's snowing like mad up home." And down the school, the ground was white. It was one of them real borderline storms. And the principal, "Well, we're going to go to school today, regardless of that." Dad gets way up on the top of Huntersville, goes out in there, he's got tire chains on. Get out in there, and the trees were broke down in the road and everything, so he couldn't go. And walked quite a ways because he hadn't got to his first pickup yet. And he went there and called the school that he's going to be a couple hours away. So they had to wait it out for the town crew to get him up in. You know. And then there's another place up there in Huntersville, there was a long Stan Slater Road, long incline. And if it was going to be slippery, my father never liked to put chains on anything. So he'd have the kids that were still on the bus all get in the back. So the weight on the back wheel so that they could get up in there. Yeah, people were really determined to get things done, all the farmers or whoever. Nothing came easy, they just kept plugging and they'd get to where they wanted to be. And you didn't call the plumber, you'd done it yourself. You've done most everything for yourself, you know. You might have somebody come and change a window or something, local handyman. Calvin Carl done it for years. He was the last one around about that done that. Vin Stewart. And if they got a bigger job, there 2-3 of them would go on together. Said you're going to put a room or two-way addition on for somebody. They said they didn't feel competitive to each other. They worked together as a team and it worked good. Now you have everybody coming from the Albany area. By my house in the morning, you look up and there's plumbing trucks, heating trucks. And it's the same ones you see on the TV advertising. They're coming way out here. And meanwhile, there's nobody here local to do any of that stuff. And everything gets more complex, more costly. You gotta have a permit and a blessing and every other thing. Like with me, I had that little garage by my place I started to build, and then Nancy Sweatman shut it down because I didn't have a permit. And I'm not a real fighter on most stuff. I ain't got time to argue with idiots. Yeah, but Ken Nolte, he's the one that hung the sign up because it was his job. It was beautiful handwriting, and I know it wasn't a man's handwriting. And Nancy would slow down every day, see how much we had done. But legally, I didn't have to have a permit because a farmer don't have to have a building permit.
Right. Yeah.
And, that's why I've left it there as an eyesore for people to enjoy. The only place I've ever drawn a paycheck is down in Conesville as a part-timer. I've done anything from mechanic to welding to running machinery, whatever they needed I could do. Run the grader or whatever. And I've done that for a better part of 30 years. Once we sold the dairy off, I needed income in the winter. And I logged it in the winter and I done maple syrup. I sold a lot of hay to the horse people downstate. Out I-88 out of Cobleskill, about 10 tractor trailer load of hay that I had cut end up there. That's how we paid for our son. I would purposely sell him mulch hay and had him all paid for before he was born. But then Sharon, being a small frame person, she ended up had to have a cesarean, so we still had to pay for it.
So you raised your son on the same farm that you grew up on?
Yeah. See, where I live now, I lived there until I was 4. That's when Mom and Dad bought the big farm. And then lived it up there. And of course, the trailer I live in now, I had that on the farm up home when we had cows. And, yeah, I stayed pretty close to home, but I did not. I was more traveled than most kids because we had the antique cars, and we'd go to Vermont for the weekend or Connecticut or go to Hershey, Pennsylvania. We went down to Hershey with our steam car one year, and we had the only one in our class, and there's 1,500 cars there because that was 1,900 cars. So that was nice. We went to Hershey numerous times. Well, that's the only time we took a car because that's where the professional Mark Hill style work.
Do you still have all those cars? Do you still have all those cars?
Yeah, quite a few of them. I sold a couple. When Mom and Dad was sick, we had to have income. And, Dad had always said that he got old, that would be his insurance. Yeah, you know, he could sell something. And I hated to sell either one. I'm a hoarder. And I think back, I wish I didn't do that, but you do what you gotta do. And, it's like today, a guy pulled in before I came down here that was interested in my log skidder. Well, I've been thinking about it. I ended up took his car, maybe, because I don't picture myself doing much logging anymore. You don't have help for it, and everything. It's not like you went out and cut trees and got them on a truck. Now it's DEP, like so would stay in DEC, and it's, they're like when Mom and Dad were on their way out, we had to pay the taxes. We were $100,000 behind, and last minute we got logged and paid in $8,036.08 a month for a year. Yeah.
Wow.
So Tom Mule, he helped on one section there below the ledges because I didn't have a bulldozer. Dad had them all destroyed. And he done that side. Stanley Fancher Jr. and Mike Ramsey helped me after hours on my farm and Dad's farm. So we survived it. That and 2 burials all in 1 year. It was a little tight. It would be nice in a way to have a family, I guess, in a situation like that, but then everybody'd be fighting back and forth anyway, probably, instead of pulling together as a unit. Back in the 50s, maybe, Hurricane Agnes, that got in our hay crop the year that was, and you would think as it rained after the storm that it would wash off the stalks, but it don't. And so we end up didn't feed a lot of that hay to the producers, but just the replacements and like that. I remember you had every door on the baler opened up, and a cloud of dust, because you had to have the feed for the cattle. You had to take what they could get. And our farm is a low-laying farm that gets a lot of water. Just what was a day or two ago, it was low. I got up in the morning, I wasn't even expecting it. It was double. And they won't let you fix it or even alter it. It's terrible. They don't like turbidity. Well, what do you get when the land is all being washed away? Turbidity. And up on Colandro, there is no creek. It comes down on the Politanos and comes across Colandros, and then on the other side of what the creek was, it goes all down the fields there. It's a shame. And we've been trying for the last 40 years to get any traction. We've had numerous meetings with a whole bunch of idiots, and nothing happens.
I'm assuming Hurricane Irene came through and did a lot of damage down there.
Oh yeah, it filled the creek pretty well full on us. And that's when my parents were on their way out. I'd work an hour or two and then go check on them and go back. And I dug from Ernie's line all the way up to Dave Merlin's line, which now is Steve Jones's line. And but they had lifted the requirements for a month. The governor said go to it, you know. And I stretched that month. 2 or 3 nights I worked out there with no lights. It was moonlit enough I could, but yet Merlin couldn't see us to turn us in because I have a tendency to like to turn us in for stuff all the time. This valley is a training ground for the Air Force up to Heights, Schenectady. I can't think of it. Been in there too.
The Stratton?
Yeah, Stratton. And they come down and, you know, do whatever they got to do. But I remember seeing bombers come through in a V formation, 5 of them, numerous times. Once, twice a week they'd be coming down the valley, right down all there when they were in, I don't know, Afghanistan. They were going down the valley with them big cargo ones that you can put vehicles in the back. And they'd be down low, but that's what the terrain is what they like. that duplicates where they're gonna go to work. They'd come down through, and you wouldn't think they would stay in the air, they're going so slow. Being an airplane, you figure they have to go fast. Then you watch, go across early, and coming this way, and they just barely get over the hump there by South Mountain Road. But of course, then again, the angles that you're looking at can be deceiving, you know, but they look like you're gonna crash. I was over at Prattsville, Great American, getting ready to go in, and the Polish War coming, I look up, and there's one of them flying right down Main Street, and he was right down low. Things were just a rattle. The bomb scared, yeah, that's gonna help a lot. I'd rather lay out comfortable. Yeah, they crawling under your desk.
Yeah.
Ooh, ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
They play that. But kind of not great music to look at. It'd be kind of hard to dance to it.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, and then you went out in the hall, and the little kids on the bottom, and then the little bigger kids, like 3 layers. I don't know if they do that anymore, but like down the school there, where you're going up the stairs, and then you go out the back door and come around. I remember they sent us there for, I don't know, whatever drill. It was always a day like today. You run out without your coat, and you're out there freezing your ass off. I don't know, I guess they had to do it for a certain time to make it official.
Yeah.
The freedom that we lost is what I miss. You used to go out, didn't have to have a building permit, didn't have to have this permit, that permit, you got it done. And on the farm, and we done things, my father and I, it was short term, there wasn't a lot of major planning, have it in your head, but no sketches or anything, you just went out and started measuring and go at it. There's a new wave coming. I'm not quite sure how it's going to go, because a lot of the downstate people are trying to make money on things up here to take back with them. Like these Airbnbs, I don't know how that's going to quite go. I wouldn't mind having one to rent out. I'd have to do the place all up, partly have to drill a well because spring water is not a likable thing anymore. I lived all my life with it. It seemed to work. So, I just hope we don't get overpopulated.